हेलो गाइस, वेलकम बैक टू माय चैनल फाइनेंशियल लेसन सच्ची चलता रहे। और मैं आपके साथ चैप्टर नंबर 3 शेयर करने जा रहा हूँ फ्रॉम द बुक द पावर ऑफ हैबिट, वाई वी डू व्हाट वी डू एंड हाउ टू चेंज, रिटन बाय चार्ल्स डुहिग। सो लेट्स स्टार्ट। सो चैप्टर नंबर 3 का टाइटल है द गोल्डन रूल ऑफ हैबिट चेंज, वाई ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन अकर्स। द गोल्डन रूल ऑफ हैबिट चेंज, इस गोल्डन रूल है आदतें बदलने का, और ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन क्यों होता है। द गेम क्लॉक एट द फार एंड ऑफ द फील्ड सेज देयर आर 8 minutes and 19 seconds left when Tony Dungy, the new head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of the worst teams in the National Football Leagues, not to mention the history of professional football, starts to feel a tiny glimmer of hope. It's late on Sunday afternoon, November 17, 1996. The Buccaneers are playing in San Diego against the Chargers, a team that appeared in the Super Bowl the previous year. The Bucks are losing 17 to 16. They have been losing all game. They have been losing all the season. They have been losing all decade. The Buccaneers had not won a game on the West Coast in the 16 years, and many of the team's current players were in grade school. The last time the Bucks had a victorious season so far this year. Their record is 2-8. In one of these games, the Detroit Lions, a team so bad it would later be described as putting the less in hopeless, beat the Bucks 21 to 6, and then 3 weeks later beat them again 27 to 0. One newspaper columnist had started referring to the Bucks as an America's orange doormat. ESPN is predicting that Dungy, who got his job only in January, could be fired before the year is done. On the sidelines, however, as Dungy watches his team arrange itself for the next play, it feels like the sun has finally broken through the clouds. He doesn't smile. He never let his emotions show during a game, but something is taking place on the field, something he has been working towards for years. As the jeers from the hostile crowd of 50,000 rain down upon him, Tony Dungy sees something that no one else does. He sees proof that his plan is starting to work. Tony Dungy had waited at eternity for this job. For 17 years, he prowled the sidelines as an assistant coach, first at the University of Minnesota, then with the Pittsburgh Steelers, then the Kansas City Chiefs, and then back to Minnesota with the Vikings. 4 times in the past decade, he had been invited to interview for the head coaching position with the NFL teams. All four times, the interviews hadn't gone well. Part of the problem was Dungy's coaching philosophy. In his job interviews, he would patiently explain his belief that the key to winning was changing players' habits. He wanted to get the players to stop making so many decisions during a game, he said. He wanted them to react automatically, habitually. If he could instill the right habit, his team would win. Periodic. Champions don't do extraordinary things. During Dungy's would explain, they do ordinary things, but they do them without thinking too fast for the other team to react. They follow the habit they have learned. How the owners would ask, "Are you going to create those new habits?" Oh no, he wasn't going to create new habits. Dungy would answer. Players spent their lives building the habits that got to them to the NFL. No athlete is going to abandon those patterns simply because some new coach says to. So rather than creating new habits, Dungy was going to change players' old ones. And the secret to changing old habits was using what was already inside players' head. Habits are a three-stop loop: the cue, the routine, and the reward. But Dungy only wanted to attack the middle step, the routine. He knew from experience that it was easier to convince someone to adopt a new behavior if it was something familiar at the beginning and the end. His coaching strategy embodied an axiom, a golden rule of the habit chain that study after study has shown is among the most powerful tools for creating change. Dungy recognized that you can never truly extinguish bad habits. Rather, to change a habit, you must keep the old cue and deliver the old reward but insert a new routine. That's a rule. If you use the same cue and provide the same reward, you can shift the routine and change the habit. Almost any behavior can be transformed if the cue and reward stays the same. The golden rule has influenced treatment for alcoholism, uh, obesity, compulsive disorders, and hundreds of other destructive behaviors. And understanding it can help anyone change their own habits. 4 times Dungy explained his habit based philosophy to team owners. 4 times they listened politely, thanked him for his time, and then hired someone else. Then in 1996, the viewful Buccaneers called. Dungy flew to Tampa Bay and once again laid out his plan for how they could win. The day after the final interview, they offered him the job. Dungy's system would eventually turn the Bucs into one of the league's winning teams. He would become the only coach in NFL history to reach the playoffs in 10 consecutive years, the first African American coach to win a Super Bowl, and one of the most MST respected figures in professional athletics. His coaching techniques would spread throughout the league and all of the sports. His approach would help illuminate how to remake the habits in anyone's life. But all of that would come later. Today in San Francisco, Dungy just wanted to from the sidelines, Dungy looked up at the clock, 18:19 remaining. The Bucks had been behind all game and have squandered opportunity after opportunity in a typical fashion. If their defense doesn't make something happen right now, this game will effectively be over. San Diego had the ball on their own 20-yard line, and the Chargers quarterback Stan Humphries is preparing to lead a drive that he hopes will put the game away. The play clocks begin, and the Humphries is poised to take the snap. But Dungy isn't looking at the Humphries. Instead, he is watching his own player align into a formation they have spent months perfecting. Traditionally, football is a game of feints and counter feints, tricks and misdirection. Coaches with the thickest playbook and most complicated scheme usually win. Dungy, however, has taken the opposite approach. He isn't interested in complication or over function. When Dungy's defensive players line up, it is obvious to everyone which exactly play they are going to use. Dungy has opted for this approach because in theory he doesn't need a misdirection. He simply needs his team to be faster than everyone else. In football, milliseconds matter. So instead of teaching his player hundreds of formation, he had taught them only a handful, but they have practiced over and over until the behavior are automatic. When his strategy works, his player can move with a speed that is impossible to overcome, but only when it works. If his players think too much or hesitate or second guess their instinct, the system fall apart. And so far, Dungy's players has been a mess. This time, however, as the Bucks line up on the 20-yard line, something is different. Take Regan Upshaw, a Buckner defensive end who has settled into a three-point stance on the scrimmage line. Instead of looking up and down the line, trying to absorb as much information as possible, Upshaw is looking at the cues that Dungy had taught him to focus on. First, he glanced at the outside foot of the opposite lineman, and the space between him and the next player. Upshaw has practiced how to react to each of these cues so many times that at this point he doesn't have to think about what to do. He just follows his habits. As the play moves in its 4th second, Humston, the San Diego quarterback, is suddenly exposed. He hesitates, sees Upshaw from the corner of his eye, and that's when Humphries makes a mistake. He starts thinking. Humphries spots a teammate, a rookie tight end named Brian Roach, 20 yards downfield. There is another San Diego receiver much closer, waving his arm, calling for the ball. The short pass is the safe choice. Instead, Humphries, under the pressure, performs a split-second analysis, clocks his arms, and heaves to Roach. That hurried decision is precisely what Dungy was hoping for. As soon as the ball is in the air, a Buccaneers safety named John Lynch starts moving. Lynch's job was straightforward. When the player started, he ran to a particular point on the field and waited for his cue. That's enormous pressure to improvise in this situation, but Dungy had drilled Lynch until his routine is automatic. And as a result, when the ball leaves the quarterback's hand, Lynch is standing 10 yards from Rochi waiting. As the ball spins through the air, Lynch reads his cues. The the reaction of the quarterback's face, marks, and hands, the spacing of the receivers, and starting moving before it's clear when the ball will land. Roach, the San Diego receiver, spring forwards, but Lynch cuts around and intercepts the pass. Before Rochi can react, Lynch takes down the field towards the Chargers' end zone. The other 10, with the 15 and 20, then almost 25 yards before he is finally pushed out of bounds. The entire play has been taken less than 10 seconds. 2 minutes later, the Bucks have scored a touchdown, taking the lead for the first time all the game. 5 minutes later, they kick a goal in between. Dumfries' defense shut down each of the San Diego's comeback attempts. The Buccaneers win 25 to 17, one of the biggest upsets of the season. At the end of the game, Lynch and Dungy exits the field together. It feels like something was different out there, Lynch says as they walk out the tunnel. We are starting to believe, Dumfries replies. सो गाइस इसके अंदर ये जो डम्फ्री कोच थे, इन्होंने अपनी टीम को उन्होंने अपनी टीम की रेगुलर हैबिट्स पे ध्यान दिया और उनको इम्प्रूव करने की कोशिश करी. यही इसमें समझाने की कोशिश करी कि धीरे धीरे अगर आप अपनी हैबिट्स अगर बेटर करने की कोशिश करोगे, पुरानी हैबिट्स में मतलब इम्प्रूव करने की कोशिश करोगे, सो यू विल डेफिनेटली सक्सीड इन द गोल यू आर ट्राइंग टू अचीव. इफ़ यू लाइक दिस लेसन, प्लीज़ लाइक एंड सब्सक्राइब. थैंक यू.